Heaton, you're outside, but you don't need to be outside? You are still in D.C., but you're just in the camper?
I need to be outside, Justin, because it's 67 degrees and sunny with 44% humidity. It is a beautiful day outside.
That is a beautiful day.
I'm in the camper, and my dog is out in the yard. So Wallace wants to be outside all the time, but it doesn't count unless we're both in the yard because we're a joint organism. And if I leave the door to the camper open, in his mind, we're both in the yard. And I just like the camper.
It's a good camper.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I just didn't know. Whenever I see that, I have no idea.
You think I'm on the road?
National park or
Yeah, you would think. Yeah. No, it was just really nice outside. No,
I guess
it's
you
nice.
can't be at a national park because they're all closed.
How would they know? How would they stop me?
Yeah, true. Yeah, exactly. You can just roll on in there and stand next to a tree.
Actually, I think I did. Hold on. I went camping not last weekend, but the weekend before. That would have been during the shutdown, right?
Yep.
And that was in a national forest. It was in George Washington National Forest, and not a big deal. But it's also just a bunch of trees. So I know that there is stuff the National Forest Service does and needs to do in order for upkeep. I'm not decrying that. But, just park in your camper.
You were allowed to go next to a tree.
Yes, I was allowed to do that. Very nearly got stuck, but I got out of it.
Good. Yeah. Good. That's good to hear. Jen, do we have a shutdown update?
No, not a damn thing has changed.
Oh. Yeah.
No, there's no end in sight.
Jen?
I will tell you this much about it. I know what's in the two bills. So the bill that the Senate Democrats are pushing for would only fund the government until the end of October. We're now within a week of that. So they're going to have to rewrite that bill very soon. And then the Republicans, the ones that, Mike Johnson is playing chicken. He's saying, we already passed a clean resolution. This is your only option. We're not coming back until you pass this. That one only funds the government till mid-November. So they're going to have to rewrite their bill soon too. So it's like by mid-November, this is going to have to move because their bills become irrelevant. So that's what I'm waiting for.
I'm also saying now we've officially moved into the stinky phase of a shutdown. There's, the way I've been talking about it on PX3 is there's a farmer's market shutdown. We're like, damn, that's a fresh shutdown. Look at that firm, fresh shutdown. And then there's Whole Foods. It's oh, that's just like the farmer's market. Might even be more expensive, but it kind of looks like the farmer's market version. Then there's the HEB, Publix, Safeway version where it's that's edible. Oh, yeah, you can kind of look at it. We're at the bodega produce version of the shutdown. There's spots on it. It doesn't look like you would really want to eat it. Now we're getting air traffic controller delays for flights.
TSA delays. Messed up.
SNAP benefits are not going out and notices are going out to people the poorest Americans that they're not going to get the benefits that they are relying on. Nobody is blinking right now. Gut intuition, someone's going to blink soon. And I think it's going to be on the Democratic side. I think that there's going to be a quote unquote rank and file revolt on the Democratic Senate side. And they're going to settle for the John Thune. We'll vote on the subsidies and then we'll go from there.
Hey, Jen, I was on a friend's show last night. I guess we overlapped on the Hill, but we didn't know each other. But we bonded because we're both Hill staffers that worked for Blue Dogs back in the day. He's very much maintained the Democratic identity and gone that direction, and I went on his show. When we talked about the shutdown, he was very much of the opinion that this is the Republicans' fault. He acknowledged what we had talked about. I know. He acknowledged what we had talked about, that there's an internal leadership issue going on, but he went, well, that's part of it, but unrelated to that are the real manifested reasons that the Democrats have to fight this. I had, not knowing as much as you or him, I went, well, my understanding based on conversations with a more knowledgeable friend is that the budget that is not being passed is essentially a continuing resolution of the Biden budget. And he said that's kind of true, but there have been such serious rescissions that have been done by President Trump that it no longer resembles that budget. So what would you say to that?
I don't think the rescissions were that. I mean, we're talking about 12 different sections of government. I think the bigger problem is that the Office of Management and Budget is not giving the funding out that they're supposed to, which is why the Democrats, as part of their demands in the Senate bill, want to basically handcuff Russell Vought in the Office of Management and Budget. But the numbers, insofar as much that they matter, most of those top lines that was still determined back in, actually I think it was 2023. So yeah, but I think like
many would argue that Biden was president then too.
Yeah, he was. Because I can't remember if we actually funded the government properly in 2024. I don't think we did. So I actually think we're going back to, I think it's 2023. Yeah. So to say that the
so we didn't even pass a budget last year? We're just doing continuing resolutions for the 2023 budget?
Yeah, we are. It's really wild. So yeah, they can complain about the rescissions, but that package, it really hit the State Department, like USAID, but it wasn't a whole of government.
Say the name.
Thing.
Say the name of what was rescinded. It was public media and USAID, but they don't want to say we need money back for USAID and NPR. So they're like, oh, you've done rescissions. We cannot have rescissions. Like, even though there's a pathway for it, they can be mad that they passed a budget in 23 and then there was another like change in government and then there were rescissions. But like, them's the breaks. Win elections, dude.
Well, Jen, I just think it's disingenuous to say that we're no longer dealing with the Biden level numbers, because even though there were rescissions, there's still rescissions from those numbers. And like I said, the rescissions packet was not that big. In fact, we were making fun of them because Doge was like, we're going to save $2 trillion. And then the rescissions packet, which was like $9 billion or something pathetic. It was actually very small. So I think it's really disingenuous to say that there's anything new from the Biden years when it comes to current funding.
Jen, I would love for you to go on Matt's show, just because.
Yeah, what show are we talking about? Plug the show.
It's Matt Robeson. I believe the show is Things You Should Know. I think that's the name of it. He's got a couple of different hats, so I think he's a rotating host on that particular show. I like him. I like Matt. It was the first time that I'd been in a heavily partisan chamber in a while, where like everybody there was like saying, spelling Trump, lowercase t, capital R, rump, like that kind of thing. And I was like, oh, I remember this. I haven't done this in a while, where like it's like everything is the most crazy thing ever. How could you, like, that kind of thing? And so I was in the odd position to be like, all right, like I agree with you that the Republican staffers saying these vile things were vile. I don't think they're literal Nazis. And like that there was a lot of that kind of stuff of me going like, no, I'm not saying it's good. It's just that you're at like a 10 and I'm at like a 6. That's kind of what's going on here.
And I don't think those exaggerations
sounds like Nazi
help.
talk to me.
Well, and those exaggerations, I don't think help anyone's cause, because if you have people that are willing to say snatching people off the street with no warrants is bad, but then you go, yeah, because they're Nazis. And you're like, well, I'm pretty sure this isn't Germany in the 1930s. So you're kind of forced to defend the thing that just 2 seconds ago you were agreeing was bad because they're exaggerating. So I just, I don't like exaggerations.
100% agree with you. I 100% agree with you on that, Jen. I think that if you're not directly partisan, you have some ability to move the needle with other people. And so I don't know that I make a big dent with people, but I'd like to think that to some extent, when Trump does something that I like, I will give him credit for it. Or if he is being maligned beyond what I think is appropriate, I will step in and go, no, that's too far. I hope that as a result, when I have criticisms of Trump, people that are more pro-Trump will go, well, at least he's not deranged. At least he is operating within some spectrum of good faith. But if you're always operating at the nth degree, the people that might actually change their minds tune you out. And all you end up doing is frothing up everybody that already agreed with you that was already going to vote a particular way. So, singing to the choir, all that. Preaching to the choir, all that.
I agree.
And singing to him, too. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
A little dinner and a show. From Austin, Texas, my name is Justin Robert Young from a hotel in Los Angeles.
I'm Jennifer Briney.
And from a scamp in his yard in Washington, D.C.,
I'm Andrew Heaton.
And we're not wrong. On this edition of the show, we're going to be talking about whether or not Maine Democratic Senate candidate Graham Platner's a Nazi and other
Speaking of exaggerations.
assorted thing. Well, you know, I think that
We'll
there's
get into
some
it.
more.
Smoke. There's some
There's
smoke.
more. There's a little smoke on his chest. We'll get to all that. As well as Amazon having a big robot push, looking to replace over 500,000 U.S. jobs with robots. All that and your emails on this illustrious edition of the program. Maine Democratic Senate candidate Graham Platner is facing intense scrutiny after acknowledging a chest tattoo that appears to replicate the Totenkampf skull and crossbones symbol used by the Nazi SS. The tattoo was obtained in 2007 while he was serving in the U.S. Marines during a leave in Croatia. He claims the design was chosen drunkenly from a tattoo parlor wall without awareness of its historical Nazi affiliation. The anti-defamation organization Anti-Defamation League deemed it troubling that a Senate candidate would bear such a tattoo. Platner insists he is, quote, not a secret Nazi, quote unquote. Says he would have never kept the tattoo if he knew the meaning, and that he plans to have it removed. Critics, including his former campaign political director, argue that Platner, a self-described military history buff, should have recognized the symbol's meaning and taken steps earlier to remove or cover it. The controversy comes amid additional scrutiny of Platner's online comments over the years, making it a broader challenge for his campaign rather than the isolated issue. Mr. Andrew Heaton, is Graham Platner a Nazi?
I doubt it. So 3 months ago, I had a guest on my program who wrote a book called Is It Sexist? Is It Racist? It was actually a very interesting book because it mapped out how people approach this very topic of how people internally guide whether or not somebody is qualified as a bigot or not. And broadly speaking, the way she organized it, and I thought the thought process was pretty accurate, was some people are by default convictors and some people are by default acquitters. People that tend to be convictors tend to look at overall societal patterns and then go, well, you fit into that pattern, therefore odds are pretty good you are racist or you are sexist. Acquitters tend to go innocent till proven guilty. You need a high evidentiary threshold to do this. There's lots of good back and forth about the pros and cons to both of these approaches. I am what you'd call a moderate acquitter, which is to say that I do think you're innocent until proven guilty. I tend to default when there's a room of ambiguity on the side of maybe the person's not a shitbag until evidence is presented to me that is overwhelming enough where I go, no, indeed, they are a shitbag. So my basic interpretation of this, not knowing a whole lot about it, is guy got drunk and got a skull and crossbones tattoo while in the military seems reasonable to me. I looked at the tattoo. I would not have known that it was a German Nazi tattoo. It looks like a skull and crossbones to me. So I will say I don't think I'm the kind of guy to get drunk and get a skull and crossbones tattoo in Croatia, but were I to have that, it could have caught me flat-foot. So I'm willing to give him some concessions here. He's a military historian that does militate somewhat against that. I did find a story where apparently, I love this, by the way. We've talked about the Tune-In before. I found a story where he was apparently a bartender at the Tune-In back when I worked on the Hill, which means that he was working next door to where I used to get drunk because I was over at the Hawk and Dove. He was next door at the Tune-In where the old guys drank. And after hours, according to the article, he would occasionally like join the lads, take his shirt off, have a beer when they shut the door, and that somebody saw the Totenkim, I think is the term.
Totenkampf.
Totenkampf, and he made a joke of like, yes, it's my Totenkampf, indicating that he knew what this was. The problem with that I have with that is it's an anonymous source in Washington during his Senate campaign. Mm-hmm. So is it possible that happened? Yes, it's possible. Is it possible that somebody that doesn't want him to get elected to the Senate is planted this as an anonymous source? I would say that is much more likely. Now, all of this being said, I wouldn't vote for the guy. I don't need to think he's a Nazi. The bits that would make me go, no, I'd vote for the other Democrat, or I'd vote for Susan Collins, or I'd vote for third party, is that on Reddit he's identified in a jocular capacity or not as both a socialist and a communist, and he's been endorsed by Bernie Sanders. If you were from the wing of the Democratic family where you are rosy with communism and Bernie Sanders endorses you, we probably have fundamentally different interpretations of how the political economy would work. And I did go through his platform, and there's one or two things I agreed with, but not surprisingly, I would not agree with his political economy, and I wouldn't vote for him. But I don't need to make him a Nazi to say I don't think he should be in charge of finances. I can just say, look, I don't think the guy has a good economic head on his shoulders. That's enough for me. But I don't need to Nazify the guy to get to that place.
Jen, how are you going to stand up to this Nazi rhetoric?
By pointing out what bullshit it is. Like Andrew said, this guy got the tattoo while he was basically on leave for the night in Split, Croatia. And he said he saw this design with his military buddies on the wall. And that's how they picked it, because they thought it was a cool skull and crossbones in a country where they didn't speak the language. And so that's how he got the tattoo. I wouldn't have known this if Joe and I didn't just recently go through this, but my own husband, around the same age, got a tattoo on his ankle. And it wasn't Nazi insignia, but it was...
Unicorn? Was it a unicorn?
No.
Hold on, can we guess? Hold on, wait.
Sure.
Okay, so it's not a unicorn. Okay, wait.
Grateful Dead bear?
No.
Ooh, I like that. Grateful. Okay, is it a snake eating a hamster with the insignia below it, born to let my snake eat my hamster?
No. If I saw anything eating a hamster as a rat lover,
Hitler
I would
in a
never
hammock.
have married him.
I'm all in on Hitler in a hammock.
You're way off. So he was a fan of Calvin and Hobbes. And so he had a stupendous man put on his ankle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like one of those college things, but it was done.
I thought it was Captain Stupendous, but it's been a while. But yeah, sure.
I wouldn't know, honestly, because tattoo.
No, that's Captain. We will get write-ins about this. Please continue. I'm sorry.
Yes, someone will tell you what Stupendous Man is. But it was done apparently by a blind man with a dull needle, because like you could never tell what it was. So I've always called it the smudge. It was just a giant smudge on his ankle, proving that people in their late teens probably shouldn't be tattooing themselves. And so we looked into getting that tattoo removed. And the tattoo was probably a third of the size of what we're talking about with Platner. And we realized that it would take like maybe 4 sessions, which can be like $600 per session. So we were looking at like $2,500. And every session you have to like heal up. And so it would take about a year and a half. And so if that is a third of what Platner would be dealing with, because if you look at that tattoo, it's big and it's dark. You're talking about something that would take him like 2 years to remove and thousands of dollars. And in the interviews that I listened with him this morning, he was saying he's not a wealthy man. And so I think the idea that like, well, he should just have it removed, like it's not that simple. Even covering it up, it's so dark that I don't know what you could put around it to hide it. And he was saying that he didn't know that it had anything to do with the Nazi Party until someone in his Senate campaign was like, hey, are you a secret Nazi? And he's like, why the fuck would you ask me that? And I can believe that too.
Could you turn it into Jack Skellington from The Nightmare Before Christmas? Like, could he add stuff
just
to
write
it?
around it, I'm not a Nazi.
Yeah.
That would
I've
be
got
an
one
idea.
of those.
I can believe that he didn't know, because I lived in Germany for 6 months. I've been to multiple concentration camps. He also said that he's been, like, when you join the military, they look for any kind of sign that you are a Nazi or a nationalist or any of these things.
Yeah.
And he had security clearance after he had the tattoo, because he went from the Marines into the Army. And so he had to be recertified again for the Army. And no one said anything to him about it. He even said, like, I was in a video where I was dancing with my shirt off. If I had Nazi insignia, do you think that I would have, allowed that on the internet or
that's
even
where
done
this came to light. This came to light because a video of him lip syncing to Miley Cyrus's Wrecking Ball at his brother's wedding was put out into the
Nazi
world as
anthem.
Noted white supremacist anthem, Wrecking Ball.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like
so
nonsense
you guys are
to
close.
me. He's a veteran. Like, that's the thing. Like,
is he a proud boy?
So in all of the interviews I heard, like even his explanation of this, he was so he took responsibility for it. For some of the other stuff he did, his explanations made sense to me, but just like everything that he was saying, like, Andrew, I know that you focus on finances, but for me, to listen to him talk about his service and talking specifically about he's running against Susan Collins and he has major problems with the establishment who he said took advantage of their patriotism because he went over and over and over again to serve in the war on terror wars. He's angry at the establishment who sent him to those pointless wars. Susan Collins and Chuck Schumer both said yes on the Iraq war and on the authorization for the use of military force, which has us in wars to this day all over the world. Mm-hmm. When I look at what I would like to see in the Senate, I would love to have a voice like his in there. Someone that would actually like look at the effect on the lives of people when they make these decisions. And then he also said that he was asked by Chris Hayes, he was like, there's a lot of issues in the Democratic Party that you're going to have to deal with. So like, trans issues, things like that. And he said, you know what? When we have healthcare and housing for everyone, then we can talk about those other issues. But you could tell healthcare was so important to him. And he said because he risked his life, he got healthcare through the VA. And because he had healthcare through the VA, that gave him the financial freedom to start his business. He's an oyster farmer. He loves that job. But he said you shouldn't have to risk your life and serve in these wars in order to get, basic healthcare, which is something that people just get as a part of their taxes all over the world. So it's like looking at the priorities. Right now, he's not really trying to do international finance. Right now, he's trying to get us healthcare, and he's trying to get the lives of our service members to be a factor when it comes to starting these stupid fucking wars that he had to fight in. So the more I listened to this guy, the more I liked him, and the more I started to get very angry because I think we are witnessing yet again the Democratic Party getting involved in their own primary to shoot down someone who doesn't like the establishment, like Chuck Schumer. Oh,
ding,
Justin
ding,
has a big happy face.
We got there. We got there. Graham Platner's been in this race for a few months.
Listening to it.
Graham Platner's been in this race for a few months. And by and large, nobody's really said anything about him. Janet Mills, the former governor of Maine, who is blessed by Chuck Schumer and the Democratic Leadership Fund.
And 78 years young.
Gets in the race. And then all of a sudden, mysteriously, we find Graham Platner's old Reddit posts. We find out that he's a secret Nazi. We get a gigantic opposition dump that happens very early in this cycle, which what will be a very contentious primary leading up to the midterms next year. Do I think that Graham Platner's a secret Nazi? I find it very odd that somebody who would theoretically have a Nazi insignia on their chest would be a secret Nazi. If he were a Nazi, he would just be a Nazi. That's like nobody looked at Edward Norton's character in American History X and said, oh, there's a secret Nazi because he had a swastika on his chest in the same position.
Because swastika tends to be the go-to. I have a hard time saying a Nazi coming in and going like, I'm a Nazi, but I appreciate nuance. I'm an Easter egg Nazi. I like dropping breadcrumbs. Yes.
I'm like the Wes Anderson of Nazis. I'm like the hidden, I'm like the Taylor Swift of Nazis. I just want to leave little breadcrumbs that really get the audience going. Now, what I worry about with Graham Platner is that he's listening to consultants that are steering him wrong because he's getting bombarded with this opposition dump stuff and he is not handling it in a way where I think he needs to, which is go on offense. Now, Jen, you listen to these interviews. I did not listen to anything other than clips. So fill me in here. Does he say the names Janet Mills or Chuck Schumer in those interviews?
He may have said Schumer in the Pod Save America interview, but I'm going to tell you that the Pod Save America interview, he knocked it out of the park as far as I'm concerned, because he did not hold back on the Democratic establishment. He said that the Democratic leaders don't understand the moment that they're in. He didn't pull any punches.
Understood. I'm not saying that he didn't pull punches in that regard. I'm saying he needs to punch Janet Mills and Chuck Schumer because the only way that this works for him is if he sets himself up in the lane as the outsider who is being wronged right now. That he is, this is why normal people don't come into politics. This is why you don't get a diversity of voices. This is why the oyster farmer doesn't run, because every little thing that could come out of their history comes dancing out of the closet, and it's portrayed in the worst absolute light, doing damage not only to their campaign, but also to their lives that they now have to go back to. This is a warning shot for every normal person who wants to run by the moneyed interest of this party. So Chuck Schumer can do his favorite thing in the world. Every 6 years, he gets to pick a candidate that loses to Susan Collins. Boy, is he so excited that he can pick yet another person who's going to lose to Susan Collins. He needs to go head on against those people specifically, because he's got to beat Janet Mills at the ballot box. And so like his race is not against Susan Collins right now. His race is against Janet Mills. Susan Collins isn't spending the money to irradiate him. Janet Mills is. Chuck Schumer is. So he either has to go directly at them or he will be eroded by it.
I think that if you listen to the Pod Save America interview, like he sounds not quite as angry. Well, he actually did sound angry. He was saying that he was angry that his own party is doing this to him. He was definitely talking about this, like, he's with you.
He's got to name names, in my opinion. He's got to name names. He's got to make this a personal thing. That being said, I wonder, because I don't know. I tend to believe him that he saw a skull and crossbones on the wall in Croatia when he was drunk in 2007. And that was just that. It wouldn't shock me if he had a hint before this happened that maybe this could have been looked at as something different, but he was in kind of a fuck it mentality in his life, and he was broke and there's nothing he could really do about it. So he might have made the joke that was put into that Jewish Insider piece about his time at the Tune-In. He seems like a real hoot. I will say there's a lot out there, including him lip syncing in his underwear.
Wait, pause real quick. That was a Jewish Insider piece with the Tune-In thing? Oh, interesting. Because I
found it earlier today.
That's interesting to me because he was saying that he's not taking any PAC money, including APAC money. So that could explain.
I don't know if Jewish Insider is connected to APAC, and I would like to separate those two entities for the purposes of this conversation.
Okay, I don't know that either. I just find that interesting because I was assuming it was in, Politico or some shit. I wasn't expecting you to say that. So,
I for one love APAC and love my family and don't want any problems. So let's just all move on.
I don't want that.
I don't know if they were looking to give it to you, but
that's not.
Well, that's the thing. I also don't want a candidate who's taking
it's not that
their
they give you money. It's that they buy a ton.
Nobody brought up
APAC.
You brought up APAC totally by yourself, and I don't believe that APAC is connected to Jewish Insider as a publication.
Okay, well, Jesus Christ, I wasn't expecting this to be as heavy as it is. It's just I thought this was a Politico hit piece, and you're telling me it's a Jewish hit piece. And the only thing that I heard in that interview
Jewish Insider, which is a publication, not a Jewish hit piece.
Okay, I'm just telling you what I heard today. He said he wasn't taking APAC money and that I thought there might be a connection there. Like,
okay.
Sorry, APAC, don't come after me.
I'm just quoting where the Tune-In thing came from. All I'm doing is quoting where the Tune-In stuff came from. It would not shock me if he were there. What I worry about for him is that he is losing control of the narrative and he is not setting his narrative. We are on the same side here, Jen. I think he is getting fucking railroaded. And all I want from my point of view is to see him go on offense on this and define where he's at. If it were me, if I were advising him, I would tell him, hey, I got a dumb tattoo. Here's a story. In the mid-aughts, when I was in the military serving my country, I got drunk and got a tattoo that, to be totally honest, I probably regretted not but a few months after I got it. And then guess what? I lived the rest of my life not being able to afford to do anything about it. And every day I looked in the mirror and I said, I guess it's fine for right now because the cost of living in this country is too high because we don't treat our veterans the way that we should. And I've eventually found myself a good enough life that I want to make a difference. Turn it into a thing that you can talk about. But if you're on the defense and you're trying to explain away a thing, then you're not on the offense. And if you are an outsider candidate, which he is, then you need to wear this on your sleeve. You need to come out and say, congratulations, another day that Janet Mills has failed to knock me out of this race with trumped up nonsense because she doesn't want to talk about the fact that she can't beat Susan Collins, the fact that she's on the record saying that Susan Collins is a great senator that's done a lot for Maine. And that's what Susan Collins is already running ads about. I think he needs to go full send on this.
What's Mills' deal? I ask this because, again, I don't think this guy's a Nazi. I probably agree with him. I honestly, I think he'd probably be a pretty good proxy for Jen and I, in that I probably agree with him on foreign policy. I disagree with him on political economy. A drug war he's good on. So I'm curious, where does Mills fall on all of this? Were I in Maine, would I prefer Mills over him?
Mills is a popular Democratic senator. She was most
Governor.
famous for getting into a fight with Donald Trump earlier this year when there was a bunch of governors that were gathered and there was the law passed about transgender stuff where Janet Mills was going to continue to with the policies that they had in Maine. Trump said, "I'll see you in court." That was the biggest thing that she's been on the radar for. She's well liked in the state, but she's 77 years old. And so you are running another elderly candidate in the Senate, whereas Graham Platner is kind of running in the
he's 41.
Mamdani,
he's our age.
Fetterman before the stroke kind of thing. I do think he might be kind of a Reddit midwit.
So what he said about that,
of him.
He said when he came back from the war, he was incredibly disillusioned and he was drinking by himself and just shit posting on the internet. And he said he regrets a lot of the stuff that he posted, but it's how he dealt with things. And he was just kind of I'm an elder millennial who hasn't posted horrible things on, written stuff before. He's I'm not at some of the language I used. I really regret. It was horrible. He owned up to all of it. But none of it sounded all that crazy to me.
I thought his 4-minute apology video was you could just go, again, if I were advising Graham Platner, Graham, free advice. Although this one's already passed. Say, hey, you want to know why I didn't agree with all the stuff that I posted on Reddit? Because I deleted it. I deleted it off my account and it was found by Janet Mills and Chuck Schumer. Janet Mills and Chuck Schumer then laundered it out to the media. So now we have to talk about it. But we're not talking about the fact that I deleted it because I felt bad about it and I already took action on it. We're talking about the fact that they found it and they put it out there. So make this about the fact that he is getting punched by his own party. That's the only thing that needs to be the story right now, because unless you can find something that's going to knock him out of the race or it's going to scare away his top endorsements like Bernie Sanders and Ro Khanna, then none of this matters. Make this a differentiator of, hey, when I'm a senator, I'm not going to go knock people out of my own party. If I'm in Senate leadership, I'm going to look for people that are trying to make this country better and not try to just protect my friends. This is a big differentiator line. And if he doesn't use it for that, then he's wasting it.
So again, I think you'll like what he said on the PodSave interview, but I also think that there's a world in which this actually helps the man, because I can tell you, I'm not in Maine.
I think so too.
I'm not a Maine voter. I didn't know anything about this. And so having this be put on my radar, I was kind of hearing, Nazi tattoo or whatever. And then the minute I saw it, I'm like, what are you talking about? It looks like a Halloween decoration. It forced me to be curious about the man and to hear him out. And now I want to get residency in Maine so that I can vote for him. I like this guy so much, and he was not on my radar at all. And so and the other thing is, I'm an independent voter, right? We all know that I have dismissed the Republican Party. I'm no longer a part of it. Bye-bye. And so in the last election, I was either Kamala or Jill Stein. And for me, I feel like he has a better chance of appealing to me because he can say, hey, you remember all those times they did this to Bernie Sanders? They're doing it to me. And that's exactly what he's saying. Yeah. And I think that the voters like me are so sick of the Democratic Party rigging their own, the party of democracy, rigging their own primaries, or at the very least, getting involved to this extent that they're trashing candidates with party money. Like, I'm so tired of it. And so for him to stand up and be like, it's happening again and it's happening to me. And here's the reason: I'm voting on getting you healthcare. They don't like that because they work for the insurance industry. He said, the structures in our society are taking money and time from working people and giving it to the wealthy. That is exactly what the Democratic leadership does. And so he is saying all the things that I am seeing. And he is endorsed by Bernie Sanders. So I think a lot of us that feel so burned from everything that has happened since 2016 with the Democratic Party, especially with the pinnacle of like, we're just handing you Kamala. No choice. You just get Kamala. I think we are so tired of this shit. And it's so easy to see in this one that I think it could mobilize people that otherwise would have been on the sidelines, because we're seeing it happen again in real time.
I agree with you. He's got to make it happen. He's got to make it his whole personality. And that's up to him and his campaign. And that's my only worry, is that some of his responses have failed. And I liked what he said on Pod Save. I liked the fact that he went on Pod Save America, which is more of a centrist lane to talk about it. The way that he handled the Reddit stuff felt a little consultant-y to me. Like, it was, hey, if you heard this, if you read it, just know that I was in a bad place, blah, blah, blah. Like, not to say that any of that can't be said or isn't true, but it's not the story that helps him. And when you're in a fight for your life, like he is going to be with Janet Mills, like, you either can shape the conversation the way that helps you, or you can play into a narrative that doesn't. And that would be like the safe consultant way, is to hope that there's some middle ground that can work. The outsider candidate playbook is throw Molotov cocktails. If they're trying to hit you this hard, you need to be hitting them just as hard. Heaton?
Can I ask a dumb question here? So
yeah,
this guy's not for me, but I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a populist either. So I'm outside of this. I'm not from Maine either. There's many reasons that I don't resonate with this fellow. I bet he's great in many capacities. I'm sure there are things we'd agree on. Mm-hmm. Why would Chuck Schumer be rooting for a 77-year-old to get the Senate nomination? Like, it seems like, is it literally just personal petty politics if he wants his personal friends in there? If you're on my end, being an outsider, I want the Democratic Party to be pro-market. I don't want the Bernie AOC wing to grow, but that's me. If you're Schumer, is he actively opposing them? Does he not want them? He just wants it to be the establishment. He doesn't want the populist, because I don't hear him particularly ideological. I don't get the impression that Schumer's sitting down talking about why markets are good. We just need them to we need the government to regulate negative externalities. Like, I don't get that vibe from him.
Jen, do you want to give your opinion, and then I'll say the spoiler?
Yeah, I don't think this is about markets, Andrew. I think you need to take your head away from markets. I think that if you are Chuck Schumer, think about his own resume. He went into the Senate and helped the war on terror happen. So do you really want this young kid, if you are Chuck Schumer, who fought in those wars, standing on the Senate floor and being like, Chuck Schumer and the rest of them, they sent me irresponsibly into these wars, and we owe veterans like me more. And by the way, the healthcare that I have, everyone should have. Well, Schumer is up there saying, we need to fight for the Affordable Care Act. And it's like, no, the Affordable Care Act is bullshit. It's based on insurance. The people that have it don't have freedom. By the way, like, we are having, because he's saying this all over the place, he's saying Maine is losing hospitals because our healthcare system is failing. And so, he's basically saying, hey, Schumer, everything you worked for, I think, is a mistake. And he's going to say that on the Senate floor because this guy, like I said, he doesn't pull punches. So if you look at Chuck Schumer and the other people like him who have been in Congress for the last 30 years, this guy's going to come in and say, you did everything wrong. And I think that's the main motivation, where this woman who is the same age as Schumer, she's going to come in and be just like him. I think that this is about Schumer still thinking that the failed policies of the last 30 years are what we should go forward with. I think that Platner's right, that our Democratic leadership do not understand the moment that they're in, and they're just clinging to power. And I think Mills is going to help him cling to power in a way that Platner not only won't help him cling to power, but is more likely to push him aside by pointing out all the mistakes that he's made over the course of his career.
Maybe. Here's why. Janet Mills has won statewide, and Graham Platner is an untested oyster farmer who's called himself a socialist and has an SS tattoo on his chest. Who do you think is more likely to win against Susan Collins in a seat that they desperately need to flip? So Maine is a deep blue state that always votes for the Democrats and yet cannot get rid of one Republican senator. If you are looking at bright spots on the map for the Democrats, which are getting increasingly bleak in the Senate, there is only a few places that you can look at, and Susan Collins is historically the seat they need to flip. So what he wants is safety. He wants
numbers.
Doesn't matter. She's 77. She could be 91. Has she won statewide before? Does she have a name that people have went out and voted for? Fine. Like the untested oyster farmer is not where he wants to preferably put his lot. Now, is all that personal stuff and the ideological stuff a part of the stew? Undoubtedly. But what he's looking at is electoral likelihood. And he believes that the woman who has won statewide multiple times is more likely than the guy that we just heard of 5 seconds ago and may or may not have an SS tattoo on his chest.
Which I think just proves that Platner's right, that the leadership is not up to this moment. They do not understand this moment. They do not understand this country, if those are the calculations that they're making.
Can I ask another really dumb question?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of using their Oppo research to kneecap this guy, why don't they do the Oppo research on Susan Collins? Is this a stupid question? Like, doesn't it make like if the goal is just to get a Democrat in the Senate, like why try to put all these resources against stopping this man? Just let it work it out of the primaries and focus all of the cannons on the Republicans.
Because they're so obsessed with like clarity of message that like, because it surprised me that they were doing this early.
Yeah.
Like that's the reason why I'm like, Platner, fucking power through it. Blister them. Like bring everybody, all that righteous rage that Jen is talking about, like summon all that right now. Because if they can't beat you now, if they're coming this hard at you now, either A, they've got worse shit that they're waiting until later in the campaign to drop. In that case, you might be fucked anyway. But if they don't, if they're dropping all their best shit today, then it's like, you have a good shot. All you got to do is power through this moment and make this an us versus them thing and try to beat her.
Isn't the primary in June? It's like a late one too.
It's forever from now.
Yeah. It's so long from now.
Like, I think that they're probably going for his funders and stuff like that. They're trying to make him a dead man walking campaign, and they would hope that they damage him now. And then polls come out that show him losing by 20% to Janet Mills. And then they can kind of attrit him from there or make this Janet Mills. Basically, they want to make this Janet Mills versus Susan Collins as soon as possible. Mm-hmm. So they want to be done with Graham Platner immediately.
I'm going to tell you how this is going to play out. You want to know?
Yep.
I'm going to tell you. Okay. Mills is going to take the primary. And then about 3 months before the general election, she's going to die. And then they're going to stick it somebody else. That's how this is going to go. I'm telling you right now.
Someone older.
Mark your calendars. They're going
to find the oldest man in Maine to replace her.
She will die. Natural causes, all that. I'm not wishing ill upon this woman. I'm just telling you how this is going to go. She's going to get the primary. She's going to die. And then there's going to be a non-democratic process to put it in an even older Democrat.
You know, it's funny because what if this is happening so early? Because I'm thinking about Maine's in particular, because their other senator is Angus King. He's an independent. And so Maine has a history of supporting independent candidates. If he sees himself getting fucked to this hard so early by the Democratic Party, couldn't he just run as an independent in the general? Or
he could. And then he'd get blamed even worse for electing Susan Collins because he would split the liberal vote.
Yeah, maybe that'll make him do ranked choice voting because then it wouldn't be a problem.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ.
Run as an independent. I'll love it. Run as an independent. Force it.
Oh, my God.
I like him.
Yeah. I think, look, I've been on Graham Platner since he dropped his intro video. Like, since he came out into the space. I think I'm very interested to see where this kind of Fetterman Mamdani lane exists in places outside of Pennsylvania, where you had to run more to the center, and Mamdani, where you were running far to the left because of the electorates there. Like, I'm curious to see an outsider class exist in the Democratic Party. I think he's an interesting candidate, but it's like, he has to know this is like no holds barred prison rules. Like, the Democrats will not stop until you bend the knee. And the only way to beat them is to be a ruthless outsider. Like, that's it. There's only one lane for him.
Well, and I just think that someone who fought in Fallujah is not going to be cowered by Chuck Schumer. So, like, I look forward to watching this.
Yeah.
I think he's up for it.
Again, my only thing, I would not question his heart. I would not question his courage. I would question whether or not there are people in his orbit that are paid money that are telling him advice that is like, write it out or apologize or like do all this like nice. Like, we want you to be a nice candidate. Fuck that. Go full send all the time. Janet Mills is an old bitch who needs to get off the stage. Like she is trying to ruin my life. She's trying to ruin my family's life. She's trying to ruin my oyster farm. Fuck you. You don't get to escape this. Like, it is you and Chuck Schumer that are doing this to us, the people of Maine, and we will not stand for it. That's the only lane he can exist in my opinion.
Man, I'll probably throw in my hat for the third party candidate. I don't think his housing policy is serious. Also, oysters are just rocks with mucus in them. They're ridiculous food. Anybody that farms it for a living is an idiot.
I do hate oysters. They're so gross.
Yeah.
I do find the fact that he posted that often on Reddit disqualifying. Like, if I were to vote, it's like, all right, I have two people, a 77-year-old career politician and somebody who habitually posted on Reddit. I'd be like, oh, damn it. Damn
it was back in
go with the octave.
When I saw the dates, like, we're talking 2013, he was fresh out of the military. He said he had no hope. He was lost. He didn't know what to do. I used to like rage, comment during the W. Bush years because I didn't know how else to get it out before I had this outlet. Like, I was posting stuff on the internet, and I was a blogger, you guys, and I deleted that from the internet.
No.
And like,
blogging, different than Reddit. Blogging is different than Reddit.
Is it? I don't know.
In my mind, yeah.
I don't know.
Conversely, I was hanging out with a lot of obsequious future politicians when I was in college. So, like, there's all these photos of where I'll be at an event and you can see people smiling and their arms are just outside of the frame because they have a beer. At the age of 20, they were like, can't have any pictures of me underage drinking for when I run for the Senate in 27 years.
That was not Platner's life.
Yeah.
Well, no, look.
He was
and by the way, I don't think they should actually be in politics either.
I have no problem with what he wrote on Reddit, particularly. It's really just spending that much time and posting on Reddit that I find to be disqualifying. But that says more about my opinion of Reddit in general.
Somebody says they've grown up to be a communist. That does give me some pause. I gotta say, I'm like, even if he's being jocular about it, I'm like, don't touch other people's money. Just stick with your oysters.
Patreon.com/we're not wrong is where you can give us money. You can make your money our money by giving it to us on patreon.com/we're not wrong. You get a bonus episode for your troubles. And we're going to be talking about the renovations to the White House. Is it an abomination or just simply a new evolution of America's seat of executive power? We will discuss that on our Patreon bonus episode. Head on over there, patreon.com/we're not wrong. Let's talk about Amazon and their robot push. Amazon is preparing to replace over 500,000 U.S. jobs with robots, according to internal documents reviewed by the New York Times. The company's workforce has tripled since 2018 to 1.2 million, but executives expect automation to prevent hiring 160,000 workers by 2027 and over 600,000 by 2033, saving about 30 cents per item shipped. Amazon's robotics team aims to automate 75% of operations, beginning with highly automated model facilities like Shreveport, Louisiana, which employs 25 to 50% fewer humans than comparable sites. The shift could turn Amazon, once a massive job creator, into a net job destroyer, economists warn. The company is already planning PR efforts to soften community backlash, avoiding terms like automation or AI. Amazon insists that documents don't represent official hiring strategy and highlights new technician and engineering jobs created through automation. CEO Andy Jassy has pushed efficiency since 2021, and Amazon now operates over 1 million robots globally. The company's leaders argue automation will spawn new technical roles, but critics fear disproportionate impacts on Black and low-wage workers, especially as older warehouses like one in Stone Mountain, Georgia, are retrofitted to rely on far fewer full-time staff. Jen, Amazon has been heavily criticized for their treatment of workers. Are robots bearing the brunt of these exploitative jobs good? Or is cutting an economic lifeline for Americans really what's on the table?
So I obviously feel bad for the people who might lose their jobs because of this. But at the same time, as I was thinking about this question this morning, I was looking at the cap on my toothpaste. There was once upon a time where we had human beings where it was their job to screw on the cap on those toothpastes. And then they automated that. Our automotive industry has automated a lot of things. Like as technology has progressed, we don't need humans for these menial jobs, and it is what it is. And so I don't see why Amazon, which is a business, should be required to maintain human employees that come along with, especially in this fucking country, healthcare costs, all kinds of extra costs, when they could have a robot doing some of this. Like, it sucks, but this is where we're headed. So it's like, I don't think that this is Amazon being evil. I think it's Amazon looking at the technology and the menial tasks that can be done automated. That's just, this is how it goes. And this is how it's always gone. And I do think that we found, like, you know, when the toothpaste person lost that job, they found something else to do. But no, I don't think that this is a good or evil situation. I think this is just sometimes what progress looks like. And I feel bad for these people, but I don't think that it makes Amazon bad to go down this route. Andrew, you were giving me some happy faces.
Heaton is looking down so he doesn't smile too broadly. Heaton may or may not be too messy.
I'm just so proud of Jen.
So are we in agreement? Is this topic over? Like, Jen's correct. We're done.
Well, yes. I can add more spin to it, but yes, I fundamentally agree with you on that. I think this is a conversation we've been having for about 300, maybe 400 years now, where a new technology comes out, it automates things. What always happens is, yes, there are some jobs that are lost. There are net jobs that are created time and time again. In the process, everything becomes cheaper and more abundant for everybody. So there are people that lose a job, and that those people deserve our sympathy, and we need to come up with ways as a society to help them. That could be job training. It could be unemployment insurance. There's lots of different things. There are people that get pinched by this. You're not going to stop it. It would be absolutely absurd if back in 1943 we outlawed lamps that were electric in order to keep the lamplighter's job. Patrick Stewart, in his biography, his autobiography, talks about as a little kid, he could watch the last vestiges of the Victorian era where men would walk down the street with a really, really long pole with a candle on it to light lamps at night, and then they would come by in the morning to turn them off. Those guys lost their jobs. But there's not a perpetual roving cohort of people that otherwise would be lighting and turning off lamps. That doesn't happen. Those people are now, their grandchildren are social media managers. That's what's going on. So I think that your analysis is fundamentally spot on. I also think that while this New York Times piece was not overwhelmingly critical, the presumptions of it I thought were needlessly critical. It's sort of, the impression I got was, hey, you know how we've been complaining about how Amazon has all of these really shitty jobs that make people do these horrible things? They're going to replace these shitty jobs with robots, those assholes. That's and reading it too, they're not even talking about jobs right now. They're talking about projected jobs. They're talking about Amazon will be expanding in the future, and instead of hiring new people, it will hire robots. They're talking about opportunity cost in terms of the labor market, in terms of unemployment, not even firing. I'm sure people will be fired. I'm sure there will be automation. But the article that they're talking about is they're looking to quadruple their size. But when they do, 3/4 of it will be robots instead of hiring other people. I think that that's an unfair malign to do. I also question the whole. I like Duran Acemoglu, who is mentioned in the article. He's a Nobel laureate. He's been on my show. I like him. But their overall sentiment that this is going to be a net loss in terms of jobs, I think, is incredibly ill-founded. For one thing, Amazon facilitates lots of other jobs outside of Amazon. So over the last 25 years, there's been about $2.5 trillion worth of sales for the people that use Amazon. That is to say, not Amazon the company, but the people that sell shit on Amazon. They're able to do stuff now that would not have been possible 10, 15 years ago. There are people that are able to have their own independent businesses, small businesses, individuals that all profit from this. And if the costs of Amazon go down because they're automating shit, that means more people can start businesses and use it. So I think it'll be a net positive. The other thing I'll add to this is, like, for the critical New York Times piece, what do you want? What do you want? Because with Amazon, the beginning job at Amazon is $15 an hour. That's the beginning job at Amazon. Most of them don't start there. Most of them start $18, $19 an hour. The average is $23 an hour. So we're beyond what people are calling for in terms of minimum wage. Incidentally, Amazon is in favor of increasing minimum wage nationally because they know that it'll knock out their competitors. But they're starting everybody at $15 an hour. Isn't that what everybody wanted? Wasn't that the big fight? They last month in September, they put $1 billion into raising wages for their employees and for lowering health care for their employees. $1 billion they've put into taking care of their labor force. The exact thing we want capitalists to do. The exact thing we want bosses to do. Take care of their employees. They put $1 billion in it. Starting in 2026 for single employees, just them, not their entire family, but for single employees, the health insurance that you get through Amazon will run, I think it's $5 a week. The sum total for your premiums will be $260 a year. That's less than I pay per month. That's incredible. So I think Amazon's been a net positive. I don't think that the automation is some evil conspiracy they're up to. And I think overall, this is something that's yielded goods to a lot of people, including the employees.
Can we play conspiracy theory time?
Always.
Of course.
How does this end up in the old gray lady? How does a story with this kind of slant end up in the pages of the old gray lady? Who is served by the idea that net jobs in the future will not be created, especially with a company like Amazon that has only begun to be unionized in only a few places? And in fact, many big unions have pushed really, really hard to unionize places within Amazon. I would suspect that that's an element of how these documents and these experts are talking to this reporter, that this is a cry from unions saying, you are going to deprive us of possible union jobs in the future, especially in the warehouses, which is the most easily unionifiable of the Amazon employee. The other Amazon employees are less prone to unionization.
It makes sense to me. And I think this is where we have some problems with unions, because when I look at it, it's like, I think a union is needed and valuable when you have people who are currently in jobs and need to collectively, work together in order to argue for fair treatment for the jobs that they do. But I don't think that the nature of a job is to funnel paychecks to people. And I think a lot of times, like, that's what this ends up being, as if, like, the purpose of the Amazon job is to pay people and not to create these products for the businesses and send them efficiently. It's like when I look at my own business,
shareholder wealth.
I'm not paying my assistant because I want her to get a paycheck. I'm paying her because I need help with research and posting things, and like there's a purpose to it. Like there's tasks that need to be done, and that's why the job is created. And I think a lot of times we protect things because the job itself becomes the goal. Andrew.
He's crying. He's never been more happy in his entire life.
I am retiring. I am no longer needed. My work here is done.
That's not patronizing at all. But yeah, I don't think that jobs for the sake of jobs, like, that's not the goal. The paycheck is not the goal. The task, the product that's being created, that's the goal.
Yeah, the value created. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes that's the job of the union, though. The job of the union is to increase dues, which means increasing headcount, which means increasing jobs.
I think that's a mistake, actually, to look at a union that way. I think the job of the union should be to help people be paid fairly for the job that they do. It shouldn't be to raise dues for the union. Like the union itself, just like the job itself, those are not the goals. And so if any union boss thinks it is the goal, then I think that they're not right for the job.
I concur. And I think I don't know a whole lot about labor law, and it's been 2 or 3 years since I've really looked into it. Like I used to kind of know stuff about the Wagner Act. We really needed some labor law revamping at the beginning of the 20th century because you could fire everybody in a factory if they uttered the word union. That was something that needed to be protected. People needed to be able to organize. But it is my understanding that on the books we made a rule that you cannot have competing unions. That if you start a union in a particular industry, that it gets a monopoly. And I don't think that was healthy at all for unions. I think that was actually a bad, the idea was that it would protect infighting or something like that. The result is that you end up having unions that can be a little bit more self-serving, and can funnel their attention into lobbying rather than providing goods and services providing protections for the people that are in them. There are countries in Europe where the unions provide a lot of the social safety net. Or they will administer some of the unemployment insurance and things like that. I think we might have gone down that route if we'd handled things differently. And I have no problem with collective bargaining. It makes total sense to me. I think if you've got a lot of aggregate employees, it makes total sense that you would want to band together in order to leverage your negotiating power against a more powerful employer. I like all of that. But it's not. I think when we get into a wholly adversarial system, it can become problematic. Where you can make things become sclerotic as opposed to providing value. And I think a decent, I don't know, like I think about like Northern Europe versus Southern Europe. Like there's like Northern Europe likes redistribution, Southern Europe likes predistribution. And I think that sometimes when you get too heavy on the let's make sure that the point of the corporations is to provide jobs as opposed to provide value, you get into that predistribution model, which is less efficient, less affluent, and ends up having less jobs. So yeah, I agree with Jen on everything she said.
Bet you weren't expecting that, did you, Justin?
Put that on a t-shirt. I agree with Jen and everything she says.
Yeah, I'd wear
We're
that
not
t-shirt.
wrong pod at gmail.com. That's where you need to go if you want to write in to this very show. We're not wrong pod at gmail.com. We also take a lot of the comments off the Patreon for this segment as well. So go ahead and keep posting over there. Imposter writes, why does Sora Heaton look more like Heaton than real Heaton?
The answer to this, and I'm going to come clean here, listener, I am a figment of your imagination. I don't actually exist. I am kind of a weird podcasting version of Fight Club. So when you're able to see me on Sora, you're seeing something that is real in the real world. But when you see me in person, I'm just in your head.
Jen, when are you getting on?
I knew that was going to be the next question.
Jen, come on.
I don't want to.
Did you see people are literally making videos where Justin and I are at the WWE trying to get you to come on stage. Like you have become there is an absence. Your absence is a character in the Sora ecosphere.
Well, good. Keep running with it because I don't want to give my face to whatever the hell Sora is so that people can make videos that I'm not actually approving or in. Like, I'm not into it, especially now that I know that
you'd be able to approve everything. You'd be able to approve everything.
I don't want to do, like...
You have full control.
There are apps that help you with your makeup and your hairstyle and all these things, and I could use all the help in the world, and I still don't do that because I just don't want to give these platforms permission to use my face. And Sora
you don't have to
so
upload
much
your
worse
face.
than that.
You don't have to upload your face. Can I just send you an invite code right now?
I will ignore it, but sure. I just don't like it. I don't like it. I don't want to. You guys can keep sending me the videos. I'm just not into it. I'm sorry. I'm social media doesn't make me happy.
Look at me. I'm Jen. I have fulfilling athletic hobbies and relationships to take up my time. Ooh doo doo.
Yeah, you guys kept trying to get me to watch your fucking Sora videos. I'm in the middle of the tournament. I'm like, stop sending me these things.
Ooh, I'm Jen Briney. I never pay for sex. I don't go on apps. Ooh, look at me.
No, I'm sorry, guys. I know you're having fun with it.
The people want it.
I don't give a shit.
They love you.
Thank you for the love. I don't want you to have my face.
I don't give a shit, Jen Briney, on the public.
I don't want people to have my face. That's something I get to keep for me. Boundaries, people.
Yeah, but what if it was funny?
That's not a good motivation. No.
Really?
Really? Yeah.
Man, there's a lot of videos of me and Brian Brushwood dancing. And they're fucking hilarious.
Great. I love them.
But
I love them.
You two are clowns. I'm not a clown.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not into that.
I serve the goddess Thalia.
Come on. Let's act like, look, we can all play high and mighty that we're philosopher kings and we're lifted above it. But at the end of the day, we're all just beggars scraping through the Dickensian world of the internet, begging for money by way of our own words, right?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean I have to give strangers the ability to put bullshit videos of me out in the universe. Like, no, I don't. I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not comfortable with social media. You guys know this. I've held back Jen, my own career for years because of it.
Jen, I'm not. I'm using this as a springboard for other people. I respect your decision. I will needle you occasionally, but I won't push you. Something that Justin and I talked about off record the other day that I'm very excited about here is Sora and all of these videos might make a return to anonymity because now we all have culpable deniability. So, like, for example, in 1990, if you lost your temper in Walmart and you said something bad, that's it. A few people might hear you say something bad in Walmart. In the year 2020, if you lost your temper and said something bad in Walmart, maybe we'd ruin your life. Maybe you'd go on Reddit and everybody would go, this person should be fired and kicked out of the HOA. We all were in this weird fucking social media panopticon where we know that we could be filmed and our lives could be ruined at any moment. It's the back of all of our minds. Now, there are so many weird videos of me where I'm giving Bigfoot yogurt and I'm ranting. I'm usually ranting about zoning while like riding a dinosaur or something. Yeah. That if something weird comes out about me, I'll be like, I don't know, it looks like a Sora video to me. I don't think I ever said that. So like I'm kind of liking it. I hope this gives me cover to loosen up a little bit.
I made a C-SPAN video of Heaton doing 80-pound curls while being interviewed in Congress.
Don't get me wrong, boys. I feel the FOMO. It's one of those things, like I didn't do 23andMe because I didn't want my genetic information with a private company, and I don't want Sora. I don't want OpenAI because isn't that who owns Sora? Like, I don't want them having my face. And so that's what it is. I am jealous of the fun you guys are having, but I'm not.
Oh, for the record, Jen, like whoever wants to use not OpenAI has put guardrails on this. So I can't it is hard for me to upload your face to it. But like, do you know what the process of you giving enough data to this app so they can continually make versions of you forever? Like what it entails? Do you know what the onboarding is?
No.
You look into the camera and you say 3 numbers and that's it.
You turn left and right. It takes about 20 seconds. Yeah.
But I'm sure there's something
I'm not saying that you should do that. I'm not saying that you should do that. I'm saying you have already put enough of that on the internet that if somebody wanted to do it with other technology, they would already be able to do it. They just can't do it in a fun way.
As the storm goddess titty pictures proved, it's already happening. Yeah. I get that. Yeah. But I'm not giving my expressed written
and again, this is another thing I'm really excited about. Now, there's enough deepfake porn of me out there that I have culpable deniability for when inevitably one of my sex tapes gets leaked. I'll be like, I don't even remember banging Miley Cyrus. That's gotta be Sora.
Shut up. If you had that
came
on your
in like a
resume,
wrecking
you
ball.
shut up about it.
Yeah, you're right. I'd lead with that in every conversation.
Exactly.
Hey, Mater Heaton, one time I fucked Miley Cyrus.
Yeah. European thoughts from an expat. As to Jen's thing about Europeans having any kind of emotion about us, at least in Germany, where I've been for the last 7 years, the attitude is best summed up as, what's going on? More than anything, Europeans have basically been coddled by the American military machine for the last 70 odd years. And they really want to understand what it means to not be under our umbrella anymore, if that's what we're saying. Germany shut down all of its nuclear plants 2 years ago, which is ironic since it's basically living off liquefied natural gas, all of which comes from the United States, and all of which is produced by fracking, something Germany, because of the Greens, has basically outlawed. Speaking of the German Greens, they have been so good at pushing solar and wind and so good at spreading fear and shutting down nuclear on days when, believe it or not, it happened for a week last year, that there's so little green energy being produced, they actually fired up coal plants again. And then green North Germany has worse air quality than any U.S. city.
I don't know if any of that is true. I don't know. I don't know what to say.
I've got a 2-point Heaton plan for this. I've heard this from a lot of people. It seems plausible to me that a lot of the European welfare state was able to be built explicitly because we were covering their military costs. And so rather than directing money into defense spending that would have been a bulwark against Russia, they were able to put it into their social welfare. So here's the Heaton plan. We will fund Europe's military in perpetuity. We will increase our military spend. We're very good at it. And Europe will take care of our health care. We're going to form a joint,
I would take that,
multi-international system. We take care of the tanks. We take care of the guns. You're under our nuclear umbrella. You don't need to worry about Russia fucking with you. We'll blow them to fucking hell. You take care of our health care and quit being snotty to us about it.
I like that a lot. I think that sounds fair because they've got it figured out pretty well. So
I think we could just make the insurance companies compete across state lines. I feel like
I'd also like.
I feel
that,
like
Justin.
that's an easier way that we can get to where we need to go, which is just drive the fucking prices down. Can we literally just make the fucking insurance companies compete with each other and not have regional monopolies?
That would also be good. I would endorse that. That could be a rider on the Heaton bill.
I mean, I know. It seems simpler that we can have Germany handle our health care. But if maybe, perchance to dream, we could have these gigantic healthcare monopolies fucking compete against each other and not just raise prices. I
don't think that having insurance middlemen compete with each other is the solution here. I think you have to get rid of the middlemen. So that doesn't work for me. Insurance should be for extra stuff, not for basic healthcare.
Yes. Let's get rid of the middlemen and bring in the Germans. Let's talk about the Gaza peace plan, which, boy, every other time that we've talked about Israel and Gaza, deluge of emails, lot of emails. One email.
Interesting.
One email. Yeah. Air Qatar writes, the announcement about the Qatari Air Force Training Center in Idaho raised some fun conspiracy theories from the pro-Israel commentariat about Qatar bribing, yet again, the Trump administration to strong-arm Israel into this framework for a peace deal. But it's bullshit. The United States has been training the favored sons of Middle Eastern monarchs and despots to become pilots for about as long as we've been selling them planes. It turns out that when you're selling billions of dollars in military hardware, you can afford to show the people operating that hardware a good time at the finest gentlemen's clubs in and around cow-tipping Kansas. In fact, Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, the darling of the pro-Israel commentariat that they want to paradrop back into Iran after getting a color revolution there, trained as a pilot in Lubbock, Texas.
That is true. That is true. If I ever meet the pretender to the Iranian throne, we can talk about Texas. I was in Lubbock with Justin at a William Shatner symposium hosted by Brian Brushwood. So that's like, if I ever meet him, I'll be like, yeah, have you been to that one bar over by the Marriott? Like, we'll have shit to talk about.
Exactly. Yeah. That got surfaced on my iPhone. There's a picture, Jen, of me, Heaton, William Shatner, and Brian Brushwood that makes us look like we're a home renovation show because we're all standing like just like four apart, and we're all kind of just doing like TV ready like poses. And it just brings joy to my heart.
Yeah, it's a
every
good
single
photo.
time.
Or
It's a
like
great
a
photo.
very, very failed boy band, but it's something. There's some kind
Yeah,
of
no. This is the
group dynamic
reunion.
there.
This is the reunion of our boy band in 1971. On Jay Jones, the adults writes, yes, of course, what Jay Jones said was repugnant and indefensible. At the same time, I cannot bring myself to care, given a MAGA-infused political climate where such rhetoric is par for the course for Republicans. J.D. Vance is right now defending far worse things said by the New York State Young Republicans in leaked Telegram chats, going so far as to call any concerns about it pearl clutching. J.D. Vance has also reinstated a fired Doge member who was caught posting disgusting racist screeds on X. How about the disgusting bigoted statements of Tom Homan, Kristi Noem, or bigot extraordinaire Stephen Miller as just a few examples? The right wing has been using violent, disturbing, and bigoted language out in the open since at least Obama's first term. Every time the Dems have retreated to being the adults in the room when one of theirs says something dumb, as Jen pointed out, they have not been rewarded by voters, and the GOP has responded by seeing it as a sign of weakness to exploit. So why bother caring? If electing Jay Jones helps Dems win, then fine. Launch him into the sun. But let's not pretend Democrats are somehow morally obligated to do so.
Wow, I just doubled down on my independent status. Thank you for this. I'm going to once again not register with a political party. What's your exit strategy here? Like, where does this end? I think we have to figure out, do we serve principles or do we serve parties? I serve principles. You're going to find a ton of shit that the Republicans have said that's bad. You're going to find shit that Democrats have said that's bad. I interact with a lot of echo chambers in conversations regularly. I wrote a whole book on this, and I can tell you every single person that is a diehard Republican and every single person that's a diehard Democrat fundamentally believes that the other team is more competent and cruel than we are. And we've got to get our shit together, and we've got to start punching them below the belt because that's what they're already doing. I think this is a recipe to the race to the bottom. I am more apt to put my weight as an independent behind people that govern their own and police their own, and I encourage you guys to do that. But I read something like this, and I'm like, yeah, I'll probably vote third party. And by the way, I am in Virginia. So I don't know. Good luck.
And I agree with that. It's been really disappointing because I see what this listener is saying because I have just watched the Republican Party just get more and more depraved. And it's so out of control now. But the Democrats have almost seen that as a permission slip to do things that they would have otherwise never done. And so I do see that as our politics get more and more disgusting, like I think this is how that happens. If we excuse all behavior because, hey, Republicans are a little bit worse, it's like, where is the floor?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
also,
I
like,
understand.
do you
Go ahead, Andrew.
Sorry, I'm just. Do you think Americans are mostly decent, or do you mostly think they're shitbags? If you think Americans are mostly shitbags, do the race to the bottom. I don't. I actually trust in the fundamental decency of our country, and I think you can appeal to the decency of people in our country. I'm not abandoning that.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard because, like, when we were talking about this Jay Jones thing, like, I honestly, I have the memory of a goldfish. I can't honestly remember what he said. Justin, can you remind me what he said?
He said that the Speaker of the House, of the State House of Virginia, was a very bad guy, that he would shoot in the head twice if Pol Pot and Hitler were there. He also said that this guy's kids were fascists. There were little fascists, that they were being raised as little fascists. And he did it all in a text message to somebody that kind of kept saying, oh my God, stop talking like this. This is really bad.
He hoped that they would die through gun crime in order to propel their parents to make better decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was grievous stuff.
Yeah.
And then he also got busted for DUI and did his community service for his own pack.
Yeah. 117 miles an hour. And then yes, did his
And
community service working for his campaign.
That definitely upset me. I think I said this in the last episode, like, we do need to have more people empowered that will not just do what Donald Trump says in this moment. But I do think that we should be demanding better. So, I mean, we can't be defending Jay Jones just because he's on our team. We can say that this is bad shit. And we're in this political predicament where it's kind of this guy or a Republican. And so he's probably better than the Republican, but like, you know, maybe start lining up a primary or like, I don't know. But I think we just need to demand better of both parties. I just feel like they're just so awful. And I don't think that
for the record, in the last...
I don't think permission slips for increased awful on the Democratic side is the way to go.
I'll add to that over the last week, Jen, I don't think you and I talked about the Republican leaks from the young Republicans in New York, but I've been on Justin's show talking about it, and I was of the opinion throw the little fuckers out. And then here we talked about Platner earlier today, and while I probably wouldn't vote for him for reasons of political economy, I don't think he's a Nazi. So it's not as if we're reflexively doing any of this. I think we are all three of us are looking at these situations situation by situation rather than being reflexively partisan, which is what we should be doing.
Yeah.
Well, let me go back to something that we were talking about off air before we started. You know, Jen, you were in the panhandle of Florida with a bunch of people that are from red states, had an absolute blast and had your faith renewed in this American experiment by way of saying, hey, turns out we all like each other. Like, regardless of where we are on this political spectrum, everything is fine. Guess what? That is true. Here's the only reason why it looks divided or feels divided. Because politics is an information war. All of this stuff that we're talking about, the Jay Jones thing, the young Republican leaks, Graham Platner, this is all put into the ecosystem that is increasingly reliant on politics for your attention to get you to do a thing one way or another. You are doing it voluntarily. You can also opt out. If you want to pay attention to stuff through this show, that's great. But if you are really plugged into this ecosystem 24/7 and you don't have an interest in the Robert's Rules of Order shit that Jen covers, the philosophical stuff that Heaton covers, or the electoral stuff that I cover, and I try to give it to you on the most absolute level playing field that doesn't play into whether or not somebody is morally right or morally wrong, but explaining to you what an oppo dump is, explaining to you what they are trying to achieve by putting this information out there, then you are only there for one reason, and that is to be monetized by these two parties, to be milked. Oh, get your little letters out and give me $5 and $10 every time that you get mad enough. That's the only reason why you're a part of this process. Otherwise, you could just live your life like most of us do. And you can go out and then every 2 or 4 years, trust me, you're going to be caught up to date based on your priors and you're going to understand who to vote for. Like, you're going to get them. Trust me, you'll be reached out to and influenced by enough people that you will know where to vote. If you make this shit your entire personality, then you're literally going to be jerked around on a leash and only punched for $5 and $10 every time that you get so mad, you're going to erode your own life and your own friendships and your own social circle to do it. For what? Nothing. Literally, like, these people are empty. They are empty vessels who just move from port to port. They don't care about you. You have the ability to live a life that is good and clean. Stay away from these vultures until you absolutely have to deal with them.
Well, and at this point, they're eroding.
But maybe if we give them more power and money, it'll fix the situation.
Well, I mean, yes. So, Justin and I were talking about this off air, and I do want to share like where it started because I got out of the screens. So I wasn't on my phone. I wasn't on my computer. We didn't turn on the TV except for the football game on Monday night. But for an entire week, I just got out of the screens. And when I was able to disconnect like that for an entire week, surrounded by Southerners. In this volleyball tournament that I was playing in, I think we had something like 60 nets and there were tournaments on every single one of them. There were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of players. And in the building that I stay in, there's a lazy river. So when we're done for the day, we go in the lazy river and you just end up like you get these log jams and you get separated by your friends and then you end up with new friends and then you float to someone else and it's just for hours. You just kind of like float around, meet new people. Most of the people that I met this time were from Kentucky, Tennessee, Louisiana. Like, I was surrounded by red state Southerners. And the whole time we were having a good time. The whole time, like people would talk a little bit about what's going on in the world, but there was no fighting. There was nothing crazy that happened. And yet if you were to go online, you're seeing a lot of think pieces about this upcoming American Civil War. And it's just bullshit. And I think a lot of people that either live in the South and never go to the blue states, or vice versa, live in the blue states and never visit the South, you have no idea how much we agree on everything. Specifically, that both parties are toxic. And I feel like it's coming at us through the screens. Whether it's your phone or your computer or your TV, it's the TV. It's like these screens that are telling us that our reality is so different from what it is. And like, I felt this the first time in April when I went to this tournament, but I couldn't quite put it into words until this time where I was like, oh, wait, it's not real. It's not real. Like, we are not divided as much as we're being told. And I've said that before, but like this time I really felt it because it was such a Southerner tournament. And I don't, like, with the job that I have, I don't know that I can disconnect from the screens because it is my job to inform the people who do give a shit about Congress about this stuff. But I think that it's important for us that have these jobs to disconnect sometimes, to really find out what's going on in the country. Because when I'm out there, when I'm in the red state Walmarts, when I'm, in this country, in the places where you would think with an upcoming civil war, I would feel endangered, I feel nothing but Southern hospitality, and I meet the kindest people. So it's not real. But the other countries in this world, they think that we are at each other's throats. And so it's eroding our reputation in the world because it's only real in the screens. And so I think that's something that we need to combat as Americans as well, that this... Yeah. This division is just fucking fake.
I don't give a shit about our reputation in the world. I do give a shit about us, and I give a shit about our listeners, and I give a shit about, the American spirit, and that is something that I very much care about. And I'm just telling you, I'm watching the machine. I cover the machine. You are only there to be milked. Yeah. They understand that they already have your vote banked. Like they're not persuading anybody. They are getting $5 and $10 from you. And either you are giving them money or you are on the pathway to give them money. That's all they care about. That's the reason why there's a new controversy every 5 seconds. There's a reason why that's out there. And that's why I try to do a different kind of show that does cover this kind of stuff on a near daily basis, because I want to explain to you the machinations behind it.
Yeah, that they make money by telling you. They make money by telling you that other Americans are evil and getting people who are too in the screens to believe it. Where when you go out there and you actually talk, like, we're friends. Americans are friends with each other. Go travel overseas and you'll see how true that is, because we can hear each other and the Americans find each other. It doesn't matter where we're from. We're all friends. The Americans are friends with each other, and they're monetizing the people that they can manipulate.
That is, Jen, by the way, your story is beautiful. I'm really glad to hear that you had that a good experience, and I'm really glad you shared it with everybody, because that is a gorgeous thing to remind everybody of. Yes, I fundamentally agree with everybody, everything you guys are saying. I wrote a book on tribalism, and in it, one of the very minor things I mention is, like, if a guy like me gets up, or Jen or Justin gets up and goes, Jen and I disagree on X, Y, and Z, but honestly, she'd do a good job. It's really a question of gold and silver. Like, who do you want to go? That doesn't do well. Like, it doesn't do well when you get up and you go, look, Bob Johnson's a good man. I think he's a fine member of our community, but I don't think he has very good ideas, and I would serve us better. That is not as much, that is not as actionable for lizard people as getting up and saying, this man is a threat to you and your neighbors. Your neighbors are a threat. You should fear your neighbors. When I worked on cable television years ago, there was a host that was very popular at the time. And I remembered watching him going, this man has made millions of dollars selling fear and anger to the American people, and I never want to goddamn do that with my life. And there's a lot of people that make a lot of money off of selling fear and hatred. So ask yourself, what are they selling, and do you want to buy it?
Mm-hmm. One last thing on Jay Jones. By Wayne Gretzky by Michael Scott writes, I'm sure you got this a few times, but the Pol Pot Hitler line was from The Office. Michael was saying it about Toby, the HR director that he hates, not defending the rest of his comments, but dude was making an Office reference.
Wait,
Office didn't invent that. Office did not invent the put two bullets. If I had two bullets and there's one person and then two other awful people, That was a thing before The Office, but yes, it was mentioned on The Office.
But
I will say this
that
actually
make
does
it
soften it a little bit for me.
Right?
If it's an Office reference. That does
It
soften it.
does.
I don't, because I do not think that maybe he heard it for the first time on The Office. There are obviously enough people that I've seen this a few times, but I certainly have heard that phrase. And also put into context with the rest of his comments, which were like, I would piss on their graves, and if their kids died,
yes, they're monsters who are raising fascists. This is how you, yeah.
I don't, that was like, were those Office references too? Maybe I haven't seen enough of The Office. If all of those were Office references and he was just trying to connect one Office fan to the other, then I would recalibrate where it was. But like that element I found kind of disingenuous. I did see that before we talked about it, and I didn't include it on purpose because I found that to be an obfuscation, an office-fuscation.
Nice.
On PX3 this week, Heaton and Josh Jennings together for the first time on PX3. We talked about the Young Republicans Telegram leak, Graham Platner's Reddit post, and I also talked about his tattoo stuff at the top, as well as a little bit more on Jay Jones, but a lot about just kind of shame on the internet, how we should handle recorded comments in the world of politics. And then Friday, George Santos was released from prison last weekend. His first meal outside of his home after getting back from prison was at a hibachi restaurant in the Poconos. And I have the woman that was sitting next to him, all of the George Santos gossip you can possibly handle on Politics this Friday, including what media offers he has gotten since his release from jail. Jen.
So we released an episode that was a summary of September 2025 in Congress, and a lot of that had to do with the people that were confirmed all at once in a new Senate procedure for fast-tracking Trump nominees. So you'll get a lot of information about who's now running our government and how Congress is getting them approved. But I do just want to recommend, because I've mentioned it a few times, so I want to give you the specifics, because I listened to the episode on Pod Save America today with Graham Platner, and I think it's useful if you want to hear him explain himself for the Reddit post, because there were other things that he said that we didn't even touch on, and hear his explanations for yourself. But it's not, the title doesn't have his name in it. So the episode that I listened to was called Trump Unloads on No Kings, and it's the last half of the episode. That's the interview. So if you want to hear that on Pod Save America, that's the episode to go to.
So they led with the AI video. And then eventually get to the actual fucking campaign shit.
It's not my favorite podcast, but it was a good interview. So
I know.
I didn't listen to the first half. I don't know what they said, but I just listened to
it's so funny because the back half of PX3 with Heaton and Josh Jennings, we talked about how liberals will never stop taking the bait with the Trump thing. That like they couldn't even let the media be about the No Kings protest without freaking out about a stupid fucking AI video.
You know, it wasn't stupid though. Did you guys know what happened with the 5 freeway on No Kings Day? Did you hear about this?
Yes. Wait, didn't the I heard about this on Matt's show yesterday, that they were doing like a military drill and accidentally fired a munition shell over the highway.
It was the 250th celebration of the Marines.
Which was they basically, like, Jen, if you understand
you describe it.
Yeah, so Camp Pendleton is in between Orange County and San Diego, and the only way to get from Orange County to San Diego is to go on the 5 freeway. It's a major artery here in California. And Camp Pendleton, it's right, it basically drives right through it. And so what they did, and like my family has lived in Southern California in Orange County, South Orange County, since 1988. For the first time in my lifetime, they decided to have ships off of the coast fire live ammunition into Camp Pendleton, and they called it some kind of celebration on No Kings Day. Now, the federal government was going to shut down the 5 freeway, and somehow that got stopped, but they said they're going to go ahead with this anyway. So that's when Gavin Newsom said, like, okay, I know that it's a Saturday, but we're going to have to shut down the 5 freeway. It caused massive traffic jams. And thank God they did that, because one of the pieces of ammunition, it exploded early and damaged one of the CHP cars that was helping to shut down the highway. So just so reckless. And like, it wasn't even something that was for the public to enjoy. There was no purpose for firing live ammunition from the sea into the United States like that. I don't understand if that was just like a show of force on No King's Day. I don't understand the motivation behind it. But it was reckless.
So all of the armed forces have been having their 250th anniversaries. That's what the Army thing was in DC earlier this year. This was the Marines' turn because it was their 250th anniversary.
And we buy this.
I don't that it was the fucking 250th anniversary of the Marines. Yes.
And this is how
I don't think that it was,
we were going to celebrate it last minute.
Hold on.
I've never even heard of them before. What are they?
One step at a time. One step at a time. I don't think that it was intentionally scheduled for No King's Day 2, the second No King's Day we've had this year. I don't know.
And why don't you believe that?
Whether or not I don't know whether or not the autumnal solstice tells us how many No King's Days we get per year, but apparently we got 2 this year. No, I don't think that this was scheduled to counteract the No King's Day. As to whether or not
I want to boil down
on
on that. Like, why don't you believe that? Because we knew about this No Kings thing for at least a month. And this back and forth about firing live ammunition over the 5 freeway it was like a daily battle. This was not something that was planned a long time in advance. Yeah. It wasn't for the enjoyment of anyone. So like the military parade, I can at least understand. The Army one that happened back in April. This, what the fuck was this for? And it was all last minute. So why don't we believe that it's connected?
Wait a minute. What do you mean? All right. So are you saying that it wasn't scheduled, or that the firing of the rounds was something that was added on? Like what are we specifically talking about?
So I don't know if they were going to do some kind of demonstration, but the firing of the rounds from the sea into Camp Pendleton was something that was pretty last minute, and they were fighting about this freeway thing because like Gavin told Trump, like, don't do this. Like, do not fire live rounds into Camp Pendleton. This is stupid. Trump said he was going to do it anyway. And that's why Gavin decided to shut down the freeway. But this was a back and forth that was going on while I was at the volleyball tournament. It was all very last minute.
I'm aware that part of it was something that was leading up into the event itself. So if we agree that the event was scheduled previously, that this element of it was something that was...
I can't agree with that. I don't know.
You think the entire event was last minute?
What's the event? What event?
The 250th anniversary of the Marines.
We're saying but what's the event? Like, I understand that there's an anniversary, but the event, like, I'm saying that the firing of live ammunition over the freeway is some kind of celebration that had to be done in this way on the, like, what's the event? It wasn't an air show. It wasn't a military parade. Like, what's the event? Like, what was this?
Was to commemorate the 250th anniversary of the Marines. Like,
by
each branch of the armed
freeway.
forces have been, again, I'm trying to do this in 2 phases here. Either we agree that this was a thing that was scheduled to happen, and then we can disagree with how they went about the celebration. And I think that there's more room to disagree with that. You initially asked me whether or not I believe that the event was scheduled on purpose to, conflict with No King's Day 2.
But I think we're disagreeing on what the event was, because I think you're focusing on the fact that there was a anniversary of the military, which is real. And I'm focusing on the fact that on a Saturday, they had an event to celebrate that anniversary. I'm not saying that the anniversary isn't real. I'm saying that the event was manufactured and unnecessary, because like, if you're going to have something that's going to celebrate the military, why wouldn't you do an air show or invite the public onto Camp Pendleton? This is the type of shit they've done in the past. Like, but to fire live ammunition, like, that's the event to me, is like to celebrate they're firing fucking ammunition and doing nothing. That doesn't seem like a celebration to piss off all of Southern California because you've now just destroyed Saturday travel. Like, that's the event to me, not the anniversary. And just, I am not convinced that Saturday had to be that event. I'm not sure that event of like firing the missiles had to happen at all. I think that's the stupidest.
Again, how they celebrated it is where I think that there is more confusion, that there's more questions, legitimate questions to be asked.
So I went to the Army's 250th anniversary over the summer. I don't know if he listens to this show, but he's a friend of mine that listens to the Political Orphanage. It was very nice to invite me to it. It was at Fort Bragg in Washington, D.C. It was eye-opening for me because I realized that the Army is like a civilization. Like I always kind of thought of the Army as a job. It's not. That's part of it, but it's a cultural group. The people that were there I was the only non-Army person in the entire place. Every other person there was in the Army, descended from the Army, or married to somebody in the Army. So I, not knowing all the details on this, my presumption would be that there were probably Marine events going on all over the country where Marines and their families were celebrating kind of their version of Independence Day on a cultural level. And insofar as the other stuff goes, I default on Hanlon's razor. Occam's razor, the simplest explanation is probably the most likely. Hanlon's razor, do not attribute to malice or conspiracy that which can be explained by incompetency. So I'm just more inclined to go, yep, somebody probably fucked up.
Well, it seemed awfully intentional because the governor of California was saying, don't do this. This is unnecessary. It's putting people in danger. We did actually have someone, their car get hit by
and he would never make anything political.
Who?
Gavin.
Why are you interrupting my sentence?
Figure.
Oh, okay, Justin, can we just admit that it is unwise to fire live ammunition from the sea over a freeway unnecessarily? Like, can we just say right and wrong here? Because I just think that this is so fucking wrong. This doesn't have to be a political, like, Gavin versus Trump thing. They fired ammunition over our highway. Wrong.
Okay.
Wrong. You don't agree with that? You think that this makes sense?
I don't know what happened. And there's questions of exactly what did happen. And I do know that it's highly political. And I do know that I'm just going to take a little bit more time before I know what happened, to be totally honest with you. But I do think that there are legitimate questions. There are safety questions. There are questions about why this wasn't settled beforehand. There are questions about whether or not you are disrupting people's lives in Southern California. I acknowledge all of it. Right now, all I know is that the White House said one thing and Gavin Newsom said the other thing. And now there were reports that there were shrapnel on the 5 or damaged a state trooper car. But there are also claims that it didn't happen or it's being blown totally out of proportion. I don't know. And so I will look to find more information when we're a little bit outside of the halo and everybody freaks out about some other new thing and we can understand what the fuck happened.
But this isn't a he said situation. What we know happened is that the commander-in-chief ordered that live ammunition be fired over the highway. That we know. There's no question.
The Marines said that this was something that is done all the time and that this was a fully safe thing. Now, whether or not we agree with them, whether or not we think that that's real, fully debatable, fully debatable.
I don't think there's a debate here. I think it's just wrong. I think it's just wrong. They put people in danger for no reason. So, okay. I think this is one of the big problems with our country is that we are so political that we are incapable of just calling wrong. And we're seeing that now in the Trump administration where there's just wrong happening. It's like, no, they're putting our lives in danger for no reason to celebrate the military. If that's how the military celebrates, then maybe we shouldn't be celebrating them because that is so reckless. It's so reckless and it's unnecessary and it wasn't coordinated with our state. It's just wrong. And I think sometimes we just have to call something wrong. It was coordinated
because they shut down the highway.
Because, all right, go back and look at the debate. It was going back and forth for days. Like Gavin had to eventually shut it down because he couldn't get the military to not do this thing. Our state was saying, don't do this thing. And the military did this thing. And so we had to shut down the highway. But this was not coordinated. This wasn't something the state going like, okay, let's celebrate the military in this fashion. You know, we're proud to have Camp Pendleton here. Let's have the celebration. This wasn't coordinated with our state. It was, they're going to fire this fucking artillery. And so we have to protect our citizens. But this was not something that California was on board with. I mean, that's why they were going back and forth in that way. It's just wrong. We just have to call wrong sometimes.
We're Not Wrong is a production of Dog and Pony Show Audio. Our editor is Will Saddleberg.
Love you, Justin.
I love you, Jen.
Wait,
For
did you
Jen
say you
and
don't love
Heaton.
me?
I said I do.
Okay, no, it's right in that point. The signal clicked out, and I thought you said okay. Love you too.
For Jen and Heaton. I'm Justin Robert Young. Saying we're not wrong. Jen's earbuds are.
Dog and Pony Show Audio.